Andor Season 2, Episode 2 is here, and oh yeah, the gallery is back. More hidden Easter eggs in the middle episode of this 3-episode arc to kickstart Season 2. You know the deal, we got 3 breakdowns to do today, so without further ado, let's break this thing down. This second episode is titled Sigrona Tima, which is the title of the episode because Perrin, in a very unlikely turn of events, gives a monologue that nobody was really expecting. But we'll get to that in a little bit, as this episode opens where the last one left off. On Yavin 4, but we're not supposed to know that yet, because it's the big reveal at the end of this episode, where Cassian has been captured by this group of rebels. Now, if you already forgot what happened in episode 1, these rebels quickly turned against each other with a lack of food and a lack of transport off this planet. This conflict came to a head when one of the rebels just started blasting the others, and now this group has been completely divided. Half of them up at the TIE Avenger that Cassian stole at the beginning of episode 1, and the other half with Cassian in this broken down ship. And the episode begins with 2 characters trying to find the dead bodies of the rebels that they blasted in episode 1. Both of these characters quickly realize that there are no bodies out here. One character only finding goggles while the other one finds a foot. Not a boot, an entire foot, as something has eaten the remains of these dead rebels. And Cassian finds himself in quite the pickle. But he doesn't seem too worried about it. Actually, he seems like he's the only one on this planet that has any idea on how to survive. As it is pouring rain, and while the others are still arguing, Cassian tells them it's not going to rain forever. Maybe you should start collecting some of it. We then cut to Coruscant, where Dedra and Partagaz are walking into the ISB headquarters. When last we met these two, they were in a meeting with Krennic, as they are now part of a top secret group that is working on a project specifically for Emperor Palpatine to mine an energy-efficient rock on Gorman called calcite. However, Dedra wants no part in this, as she tells Partagaz in this scene that she's going to decline the offer for Gorman. But she has it mixed up because this is not an offer. But the reason she wants to decline is because she's working on Axis. In Season 1, Dedra is pretty much the only one in the Empire who is on top of this rebel activity. She's the one who figured out that all these different things that happen across the galaxy were connected through the rebellion. She even narrowed it down to Luthen specifically, but doesn't know his name, and gave him the alias Axis. The only problem now is that was over a year ago, because there was a year gap in between Season 1 and Season 2 of Andor. So although Dedra got a lot of evidence really quickly a year ago, she's gone a year without anything else. And Axis still remains a mystery. So Partagaz tells her this is not really an option here. Take the Gorman job. And he even tells her the next time you want to make someone famous, do it after you caught them. So Dedra is likely to be in attendance at the Gorman massacre when it happens later on in the season. We then cut back to Sandrella, where the secret item that Luthen got for Davos has arrived. Now, Episode 3 does reveal what this item is, and we'll talk about it in Episode 3's breakdown. But Clea comes to reveal the bad news to Luthen. Not only can she not get in touch with Cassian, who is on a mission for them, but she also tried to reach out to Bix, and the communications are jammed because Bix is on Mina Rao, and the Empire is currently there looking around. She tells Luthen that she has to go back to the gallery. She can't work here. And Luthen says, well, you're going to have to get your own ride back home because I can't leave. To which she responds with, I found one. Now, this is alluding to Cinta, the character from Season 1, who does make her first appearance in Episode 3. But we'll get to that in a little bit. As Mon Mothma is talking to her husband, Perrin, about this second day that's about to happen of their daughter's wedding. He also brings up Mon Mothma's boyfriend, Tay Koma, who had a little bit too much to drink the first night of the wedding. Like we talked about in the first breakdown video, Tay is getting cold feet. He doesn't feel as though he is valued enough in this transaction with the rebellion. And now that Mon's husband, Perrin, is looking into this, it's becoming an issue. Too many eyes are on Tay Koma. Let's just say he might have to be taken out. As we cut back to Mina Rao, we see what I can only describe as R2-D2 if he was in a 1990s Mario game. You turned R2-D2 into a pixelated figure. That seems to be the droid that's working for Kellen, the guy who will seemingly be helping our main characters for the next 2 episodes. He goes to inform Bix, Brazo, and Will that the Empire is on their way. They're looking for people that are here illegally, which is them 3, as they are inspecting the lands and making sure that everything is going according to the plan of the Empire. Brazo asks if they should run, to which Kellen tells him no, because they found some people who are running and the consequences are probably going to be a lot worse. He also tells him that it's been 10 years since the last time the Empire showed up to audit them. He then asks, where's Cassian? To which Bix responds with, he'll be here. Well, I don't think he will, as we cut back to Yavin 4, where he's still a prisoner of these rebels, who are now extremely hungry. They're going into their food rations, which are now moldy, and figuring out if it's okay to eat this moldy food. Yet again, Cassian is the only one who's proving that he has experience in a situation like this, as the prisoner tells these rebels what to do. They should set up a perimeter. And then we cut to Coruscant. He's back. We get our first scene of the season with Syril, who got a promotion. By the way, when we last saw Syril about a year ago on Ferrix, he saved Dedra's life, and that apparently led to some feelings in creating the greatest couple of all time. Syril now has more of a managing position at the place he worked at in season 1, and we see him teaching the new guy the ropes. And we go back to Mina Row, where we get introduced to one of the worst characters in the history of Star Wars. The Empire has arrived, and Bix gets introduced to this dickhead, clearly an Imperial who has taken a fascination to our Bix. And well, let's just say it's not going to end very well for this guy. But that doesn't happen until episode 3, and for now we have to deal with him being the creepiest guy in all the galaxy. He's asking Bix if she's ever gone to Rao, the main city on this planet. She of course says no, and he requests that she accompanies her to the capital. Bix then tells him that her husband is off-world, referring to Cassian. I don't know if she's being serious or not. Did they get married? Or is she just trying to get rid of Creepo? Either way, the romantic relationship between Bix and Cassian is going to grow greatly in season 2. It's just more a question of what has it really become over the last year in between season 1 and season 2. We then cut to Syndralla, where Mon Mothma, Vel, and the rest of the wedding party are walking on a wedding hike. Here's where we get a lot of information about the character of Cinta, who doesn't appear until the 3rd episode. Vel loves Cinta, but she has no idea where she is. She tells Mon that Luthen definitely knows, but he won't tell her. Cinta is on some top secret mission, and Vel is only a distraction. Vel tells Mon that it's sort of just bad timing. We have to do for the rebellion, which Mon Mothma responds with, well, we have to live through what we have to do, don't we? Honestly, I don't think Vel's making it through season 2. She's a character that's not in Rogue One, so her death is pretty likely, but because of her relationship to Mon Mothma specifically, and well, Mon Mothma does survive to Rogue One, it will be a pretty meaningful death. But tell me in the comments below, do you think Vel will die in season 2? This conversation was surely alluding to it. And don't call me Shirley. Back on Yavin, the rebels who are by the TIE Avenger, they are now trying to turn the tides in this fight by turning the TIE, aiming the blasters at the other set of rebels, and I guess just kill all of them? Because that's a great solution, but it's the solution that they came up with, so they're sticking to it. And although it's going to take them hours and hours, Cassian does the math, and by midnight, it's possible that they could have turned it all the way. So instead of just waiting for their demise, they start blasting at them to make sure they can't turn the TIE. We then cut to Coruscant, where yet again, Tony Gilroy is a freaking genius, as this scene right here is the perfect parallel to Princess Leia on Cloud City. Now, Dedra is definitely not Princess Leia. Pretty much the exact opposite, actually, in many different ways. Brown hair, blonde hair, good guy, bad guy. Dating Syril, not dating Syril. Pretty much the exact opposite, but it's still a great scene. Dedra is in her apartment as she is listening to opera. Star Wars is a space opera. She's listening to opera. Get it? Well, this is not the first time we've seen or heard opera in Star Wars. Revenge of the Sith does have an opera, but this jam session from Dedra is interrupted by Syril. He's surprised that Dedra is home so quickly, as he knows that she was on some secret mission. So there are some boundaries in this relationship, but they start to talk about a special event that is happening. And that is Syril's mom coming over, not only for dinner, but to meet Dedra, Syril's new girlfriend. Syril really wants to push this back and just say that Dedra's still away and they can't do it. But Dedra says no, she wants to meet Edie. My God, their relationship is so weird. It might be the cringiest thing in Star Wars. But back on Syndralla, we get night 2 of the wedding. And in a similar conversation to night 1, Takehoma and Mon Mothma are talking about business. And Tay still has his concerns. The foundation that they were creating is up and running. Mon Mothma at this moment is safe from anybody looking in her records for anything sketchy. Davos Skolden has gotten what he came for, which was his son being married off to Mon Mothma's daughter. But what does Takehoma get? For all the risks that he took, what does he get in all this? And as he puts it, this rebellion has hurt him the most. Rebel activity is not good for his investments, and he feels a little undervalued. This is not going to end well for either Mon or Tay. Either Luthen's going to kill Tay because he knows too much information, or Mon Mothma's going to get screwed over because this guy doesn't feel valued. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on who comes out on top. in this situation, as Luthen watches onto their conversation intently. Back on Coruscant, Clea has just arrived back at the gallery, one of the coolest places in Star Wars because it's filled with hidden Easter eggs. From what looks like Mortis God World Between Worlds type carvings on some stones, to headdresses for Padme Amidala, to even the mask of Plo Koon. Now, it's probably not the exact mask that he had on, but that mask helped the Jedi Master breathe in the atmospheres of planets where he wasn't allowed to, which was most of them, so he wore it all the time. But we really got to start asking some questions like, how the hell did Luthen attain all of these things? A lot of Padme Amidala in Naboo stuff. Different helmets from the Queen, Gungan shields from the Gungans. It's a little strange. He even has Sith and Jedi holocrons in the back room. But Clea opens up the radio in the back room. This is very much like an old operator's switchboard. Yeah, that's right, those existed at one point. Not that long ago, actually. You call an operator and they put you through to a different line by switching the cord to a different input. And that's pretty much what this system is based off of in Star Wars, as Clea can hear on all different frequencies any sort of activity. Back on Syndralla, a very difficult conversation has to be had between Mon and Luthen. What to do with Tacoma? If he starts to go to Davos, they're in big trouble, and there's a lot of Imperials at this wedding. Mon assures Luthen that they have a meeting next week on Coruscant, and they will find the number to keep Tay quiet. Luthen is not buying that. He knows that this is a loose end that he can't have. But they get interrupted by Mon's husband, Perrin's speech. This speech or toast is called a Sagrona, the title of this episode. And I was quite surprised by this, I must say. Perrin in season 1 was sort of a character that nobody liked. Maybe because we all liked Mon Mothma so much, we just hated him. But his message is pretty much one that should be broadcasted across the world. Well, I guess that's sort of the goal with these television shows. He's pretty much giving advice to his daughter that's about to be married about how life is so sad and negative and can cause you anxiety and all this crazy stuff, but you gotta have joy, celebrate things, have pleasure and gratitude and all this great stuff. And I mean, he's not wrong. Everybody day in and day out seems to have such a sad day. Why be sad when you could be happy? That's really all he should have said. This thing dragged on forever. Now, I'm kidding. But Perrin steals the show. Now, back on Yavin, all these rebels know that they're both going to starve. So they want to make a truce. They meet between the two ships and drop all their weapons. And they play a game called 5 Hands, or what I like to call Star Wars Rock, Paper, Scissors. And that's pretty much exactly what it was. And while these two groups play this crazy Star Wars Rock, Paper, Scissors, Cassian makes his grand escape. He gets to the TIE Avenger, and before they can react, they get attacked and eaten by a Yavinian Dudar. Yeah, that's right. This hippo-like creature was named after the designer that created the creature, Alexander Dudar. And that is just enough of a distraction for Cassian to make his escape. And as he is leaving the planet, that is when it's revealed that this is Yavin 4. Telling us that this entire time, Cassian was on the planet that will eventually become the rebel base. But that's how quickly things work in this rebellion. This is just 4 years before Rogue One, and Yavin 4 is going to come a long way in those 4 years. But that ends episode 2. Now, this is my least favorite of the 3 episodes, but even still, it's an incredible one. This is sort of the bridge between the beginning and the end of this first arc, or first movie in the quadrilogy, if you will. It really gives a lot of information about the Tacoma stuff on Syndralla, but it alludes to Vel dying later on in the season, and it sets up the worst dude ever with Bix, but it also gives us probably the greatest relationship in Star Wars ever, too, with Syril.